So I just opened up my new to me Lightkeeper Pro. I needed to order a replacement because the clicker on my old one, I wore it out. So if you don't know how these things work, the clicker is actually a lighter igniter and some diodes that go out to the end plug here or the spade plug here. And it's the high electricity that zaps the shunt to get your lights working again, in case the shunt insulation did not uh, burn off or corrosion set in and you don't have a string of lights working. So I like to make use, just to have it working 100%. Normally, this little compartment here holds three LR44 batteries, some button cell batteries that power the electricity or little monitor to tells you where electricity is, if it's running or flowing or whatever. And you push this black button to have the voltage detection working, and then it also powers your bulb tester and your fuse tester and gives you a little LED, tells you when it's working. So instead of having to play the game of buying LR44 batteries, and you're only going to use this thing once or twice a year, and then after that the batteries stay in there, because how many people are going to take the batteries out and flip them over or keep them in the compartment? But eventually they die. So we're going to modify this. And we're going to modify this to be a lithium Lightkeeper Pro, because for me, I don't store lights in the compartment here. So there's plenty of room in here to play. And that's exactly what we're going to do. So this is a nice little experiment to play with, cheap lithium batteries that ain't worth a crap. The ones that are 7,000 milliamp hours, and they only hold a couple milliamps. So for me, I only got a good battery. So this particular battery, this is an 18500 instead of a 18650 or something like that. So this is a 3.7 volt battery. And it's only 1,000 milliamp hours. So I use these. These were replacements for a solar post light. Unfortunately, the wind caught one and promptly smashed it years ago. So the only thing that was salvageable was the battery. So it's been hanging around here waiting for a purpose. And now it's got one. So we got that. So now the only other thing we need is a battery protection board and charger for that little 18500 battery. So you can get these little things on Amazon or eBay. And these little. They're known as a 18650 or lithium ion or lithium polymer charge board, and it's also protection board, so you don't run your battery below 2.8 volts, I think it is. In this particular animal, this is a USB-C one. They come in USB micro and USB mini, or you can just hook it up direct. So that's what we're going to be using. And then the only other things you need for this little project is some scrap wire and a drill, and a pair of nippers. So we'll get started here, and of course you need a soldering iron. So for me, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take one of these little dividers out. So I'm going to chop it out. A pair of nippers. Same thing with the lower partition here. Get your mouse pointer off that fast forward button. I see you. So now all we got to do is just work that lower section out of there. It don't have to be pretty. You can make it look pretty if you want to, but I don't care. So now we got a little compartment now. So now we got room for the battery. And they can just, for me, I don't care. I'm just going to let it flop around in there. And there's enough room for this little protection board. So now the next thing we got to do is we got to run the wires up to the terminals in the compartment up here. So there's a lot of room in here to mill around. So the terminals are right here on either side, and we're gonna punch a hole in the in this part here. So we need to do a little more surgery. And we'll cut this upper part here. So now we're going to be drilling a hole, a couple of holes right in here. We're going to go straight up in to get some wires in there, positive and negative wire. So we'll just we'll pick a spot here, sort of close to the edge here. We'll just cut some holes in there. Okay, I can see light going up through. So now, all we need is some scrap wire. So, and it don't need to be heavy gauge or anything like that. Just whatever works. So I got these little DuPont jumpers. And just cut the ends off. What do you mean I do? Chop it off? Yep. And we'll just fish the wires up through the holes. Just like such. So now we'll just strip a little section, and we'll get the soldering iron going here. And then you follow the there's a little diagram on the circuit board down there, the positive and negative. So if you're right-handed, the positive is on your finger side, and the negative is where your thumb would be. So we'll get some solder on the or solder. Get some solder. Solder. 3 different ways you can say for electrical welding. Most common is soldering, or some say soldering. They make sure they emphasize the L. And some say soldering. The L is silent. So kind of three ways that you can say it. So all we got to do is get some solder, soldering, on the battery terminals. We'll get we'll put the soldering iron on nuclear. And that's the positive side. And we'll tin the wires. Hook up the red lead. And there's a little hoop in there that will get the wires underneath. You'll see the little hoop in there. You can put the wires on the underneath side. Of course, how many people are going to actually be doing this crazy project? Not many. Who would do such a crazy thing like modify a Lightkeeper Pro? Only here in a lab of wackiness. So now we got the positive hooked up. So now we'll find a little home for the wire. Now I'll work on the negative side. We'll get the wire hooked up. Now that part is done. Now we can hook up our little cover here. Get the wires out of the way, because we'll have to make room for the little button pusher there. So we'll just slam them out of the way. Okay, I can hear the momentary button being pushed. So we successfully modified that section. So now the next thing to do is to do something with this battery, and I've already played with the top portion because this is a flat top, so there's nothing protruding. But I don't have anything to put the negative terminal on, so I have yet to get one of them nifty little homemade spot welders for these batteries. So I do it the old school way, and just a nice hot soldering gun, soldering iron, just cook the battery. So now we got a little blob of solder on each solder on each side of the battery. So the positive and the negative. So now we need to tap into our scrap, another section of scrap wiring. And we need to connect the battery to the board. And then the board to the wires for the voltage detector. So I probably don't need such long wire, so I don't have some wires for a future project, because I always keep these little bits of scraps, because you never know when you need a little scrap of wire. So in this particular date I'm recording, I'm still in January, and I got a little report in my email box today that my silly little channel has finally reached 25,000 views. I currently have 226 subscribers, so that's nice to see. The slow, steady climb of subscribers is hard to get. So maybe before I'm dead, I might have 1,000 subscribers and make $1. So now we got our little protection board here. And on these protection boards, you got 4 terminals. You got 2 marked for B plus and B minus. That's your connections for your battery. And then you have in positive and out negative. So that is your outgoing power. So we'll go ahead and put some solder on the pads. And then we'll tin these wires. And we'll go ahead and attach the positive out and or negative out to the outputs, and the battery plus and battery negative. So that's the wires for the battery. So now we'll work on the little voltage detection power here. go ahead and hook them up. So we got the negative output. I believe the negatives are tied together in these boards, so even if you hook two wires to one negative pad, it'll still work. Okay, now we got our little protection board on. So now the final step is to attach the battery. Everybody freaks out. Don't solder on the lithium battery, it'll make it blow up. Get out of here. If you're trying to solder a connection with a little cheap Harbor Freight 10-watt soldering iron, yeah, you have a problem. But you get a high power iron, you just zip. The battery, nobody will have a problem with it. So now we are officially converted over to lithium power. So now usually with these, let's see if it works. Ooh, I got power. Can you see the power? We got power. So now if you want to be real creative, you can find and see if you can find a spot somewhere to mount this board, so you can just plug it in with the charger or whatever, but I really don't care. So I'm just going to tuck the wires in. Just let it fly in there. Now it looks like now it's a sleeper. It's a sleeper Lightkeeper Pro. So now we'll see if the bulb checker works. So we'll find a little light here. So we have a LED. This is an LED, so when you do test your LEDs, if it don't light, flip it around. And usually the tang faces toward you to test the bulb. There we go. So the tang I have to correct myself, the tang goes out. The little light lock, because some of these Christmas lights, they have light locks. So the tang goes out. So now we have power. We know we have power. Now for the voltage detector, so we just grab an extension cord here, and we'll see if we can get a beep. Yep. And that's how you use these things. You pretend that this is a strand of Christmas lights here. You smash the other button here and you scan it. And you hear them little, every once in a while you'll hear like a little break. But since this is not a Christmas light set, but you get the concept of how the voltage detector works on these things. So now being that this is a lithium-powered Light Cooper Pro now, you don't have to worry about the batteries going dead, because the little charge protection board in there will not let it go past the whatever cutoff voltage. And when it's dead, where you know when you're going to be using it, just give it a charge. That's all. So now we have successfully modified a Light Cooper Pro, the old school incandescent mini light fixer, from LR44s that you need 3 of them to 1 lithium-ion battery. And it's a great little little project experiment. And you don't even have to spend a lot of money on a lithium pack. You can use anything, really. You know, whatever you got laying on hand. I mean, if I really wanted to, I could just use any kind of lithium pack. You know, any little inexpensive lithium pack that has, you know, even something like this. These little tiny things. These have their own protection board on it, so all you need to do is, I think it's, of course you still need a charger for it, so you still would need a regular charging board, but these will protect the battery too. So any kind of battery that, you know, has positive and negative, you know, even a three-wire lithium pack, whatever you got on hand, whatever rechargeable battery that you got laying around. Of course, it's got to be lithium to use a lithium board. So this video has gone on long enough. It's almost coming up to half an hour. I got my low battery indicator coming on, so before this thing craps out, I say, see you on the next video. Ta-ta.